going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to cheese contracts within Madden 24 and honestly in previous Maddens as well. This method can be used to basically skirt the rules in any franchise and get your players re-signed on cheaper contracts than you have been able to by just standard re-signing methods. This is, again, like I said, something you can pretty much skirt the rules with because all it takes is a little bit of player movement from position to position. And you guys might start to be able to see what I'm getting at here. So in order to see your re-signings at any point in the year, you can actually view them by going to your roster and clicking on re-sign players. A lot of people will wait until it says, an actual pop-up for re-signing players. You don't necessarily have to do that. Now, you do have to wait to physically sign those players, but I can see from my team who's actually available to re-sign right off the bat by going to re-sign players. So we have a lot of players we can play with in today's video with Chase Young, Cameron Curl, Kendall Fuller, Montez Sweat, Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel, Cody Bart. We have a ton of players here on the Commanders that are good case studies for us whenever we actually want to try to cheese the contract re-signing for them a little bit. And some of this is going to help you out, especially if you have a player that wants a ton of money, like at a premium position like edge rusher, or let's say you have a running back that now they want more money in Madden than they have in the past, and oftentimes re-signing them doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or maybe you have a player that is just looking for more money than you want to pay them. Maybe they're not interested in re-signing with your team. This is going to help make that an easier process. And like I said, you can kind of skirt around most rule books by doing this. Make sure you guys, if you want to see more, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, especially if you're new around here. That subscription is going to help you guys get all of the best, most detailed information about Madden that you could possibly want, especially franchise mode. There's not a whole lot of channels out there that are going to give you the information that I provide here on the channel in the detailed manner that I do. So if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But in order to get into this, we have to simulate forward real quick. So I'm going to simulate forward. It looks like most of these players are to be re-signed in week 3, or we can start negotiating in week 3. And we'll go ahead, advance to there, and that's going to allow us to then start playing around with this. Now, as we advance here, I want to say that I don't necessarily condone doing this method and cheesing contracts nonstop within Madden. It's not really something I recommend. I typically like to tell people to shy away from those things and err on the side of realism. But I want you guys to know what is out there and what's possible, because if you're running a league, you should know what is possible for users to be doing to skirt around the rules. And if you're in a league and other people are doing it, you should be able to do it yourself as well. You should have the knowledge to be able to do it. So let's go ahead in now and actually negotiate with some of these players. We have players ready to negotiate here, and we'll take a look at a couple of case studies. The first one that I want to look at is actually Antonio Gibson. That's probably a good jumping off point because he's a lower overall, not interested in re-signing with our team, and he's going to want a good bit of money for what a 77 overall running back is. Looking at his contract, he's going to want about $4 million per year, which is just too much for an Antonio Gibson type of a player. He's a backup running back on every team within the league. Yeah, he's a star. Yeah, he's 25 years old, 77 overall, whatever, but it's still just too much money for him. So what we can try to do is we can try to move his position, and that's the key here within this video. Now, learning which position to move players to before you re-sign them is the kind of detailed part of it that you have to get a little bit more experienced with. But if we take Antonio Gibson, for example, and move him to fullback, his overall is going to go down, and at fullback, the re-sign money is always going to be lower. I mean, you're going to pay a fullback much less than you're going to pay a running back. So it's going to be a little bit of a double whammy in a good way, where he's going to be a lower overall and the position already demands less money. So hopefully when we go ahead into Antonio Gibson here and edit his position to fullback, he's going to want less money when we come back to this negotiation screen. So remember, 2 years, about $4 million total per year. Now, as we can see here, Antonio Gibson moved down to a 72 overall at fullback, and for some reason, his interest is now higher. It was 0 before, and now he has more interest in signing with the team. So when we switched his position, his actual player motivations look like they probably changed. He's now asking for 1 year, $2.5 million, not even $2.5 million deal per year. So you can now see that we can get Antonio Gibson on a much cheaper contract, and in a lot of leagues, you have legal little position changes like this. A running back can probably play fullback, or if you have the option to switch him to another position, you can do that as well. The other thing too is if the league is not really checking transactions that often, many times what you can do is you can just switch this guy, re-sign him for this contract, for example. I'm just going to say, you know, maybe I'm going to sign him on a little bit more money just so that he accepts first time. Yeah, exactly the offer I wanted to get. And now I'm going to go back in and just move him back to running back. And the league is not even going to probably realize that you moved the guy, re-signed him, and moved him back, right? If you do it quickly enough, transactions get buried. I'm just going to be honest, you can cheese it that easily to get that player now on a really cheap running back contract. And now, like I said, this is just a 2-minute process. All I have to do is move him back to running back. His rating's going to go right back up. He's now going to be under contract as a 77, 78 overall player for my team for a much cheaper contract. I mean, you take a look at what was going on with him before, and his contract was going to be way too much for a backup running back. I mean, we got other guys on this team that we want to play and we want to pay money to. And so now look, his current deal is 3.03 mil in the current year, and we were able to sign him for less than that for the next 2 years after that, 2.72 and 2.88. And this can be even better at other positions. Some of the ones that I want to talk about are like your edge rushers, because again, those guys are making premium dollars. And so whenever we take a look at, you know, edge rushers at the outside linebacker, defensive end position, you can kind of move those guys back and forth to make them cost you less money. Another thing too, defensive backs, for example, Kendall Fuller, your corners are going to be making more money than your safeties are. Kendall Fuller, as you can see here, is asking for a pretty sizable contract. I mean, he is a 87 overall, but you're looking at $12.5 million for a single year contract with Kendall Fuller. Meanwhile, when you look at a potentially much better player in the long run in Cameron Curl, younger player, star dev, only a couple overall lower, we're looking at about $9 mil per year. So if we really wanted to get the most out of this, what we can do is we can just move Kendall Fuller to safety, where he's going to demand less money, and then re-sign him as a safety and then move him back to corner. You know, if you have safeties like Cameron Curl, leave him at safety. They're going to probably just demand a decent amount of money there, and it's not really going to be that much. I mean, paying an 83 overall player like him, the contract that he was asking for wasn't that bad. So we'll go ahead now and take a look at Chase Young as our next example. He's asking for 3 years, and this is about $15.5 million per year, which is pretty substantial for an edge rusher that's only an 85 overall. It's not the worst actually in the world. That's not the worst contract I've seen. But whenever we go ahead and move his position around, let's say outside linebacker or defensive tackle, the amount that he's going to be asking per year is going to go down. So like I said, $15.5 million per year. I'm going to go ahead and change his position and show you guys what we can actually get him on a contract for. Now we're going to get a little bit cheesy with this one just because we actually have the capability to do so, and we're going to move Chase Young to kicker and just show like the extent of how bad this can actually get. I can get Chase Young on essentially a 7-year contract with no penalty by just giving him a half decent salary and moving him to kicker. Now he's going to accept this offer. We now have Chase Young on a contract, and we did nothing that was off limits to a player in most leagues. We were able to just move the guy to kicker, and that was going to give us a crazy contract on the guy. So like I said, some of the easiest ways that you can do this, I mean, if you're not trying to go crazy cheesy with it by moving your guys to kicker, I mean, that's going to be obvious in transactions. Not a lot of people are going to be moving players to kicker and to and from. But if you really want to get some of the better contracts, you can try to move like your running backs, like I said, to fullback. Oftentimes moving tight ends to fullback is going to get them on cheaper contracts. Sometimes you can move offensive linemen around to get them on a cheaper deal to different offensive line spots. Certain positions are going to demand more money. For example, your offensive tackles are always going to demand the most amount of money. So if you have a left tackle, that's going to be a premium. Right tackles, next to that, so on and so forth. I could give you guys an example here for Sadiq Charles as an example as a left guard. He's really not asking for a whole lot of money. We're looking at 1 year, 1.7, 6 mil as a bonus. So we're looking at 2.9 $2.3 million for this player. But I bet if we take Sadiq Charles and move him to left tackle, he's going to be making more than that, or demanding more than that, I should say, from a contract, just simply because of the positional demands. And then in addition, on defense, your D ends and D tackles are going to make somewhat similar money. I mean, even sometimes D tackles make more than defensive ends. So if you're having a problem getting a player back as a, and yeah, you can now see that he's asking for close to $3 million just because he's listed as a left tackle, even though I'm pretty sure his overall just went down. So, there's, a point to be had there. If you have a left tackle, you want to sign him for less, move him to a guard or maybe center position. You'll be able to get him for less, then move him back. And you don't even have to move them back necessarily. You can play them on the depth chart. But, if you have a D tackle that's asking for a lot of money, move them to D end. They're probably going to ask for less money. If you have an outside linebacker that's asking for a lot of money, that's because it's technically an edge rusher position. Move them to middle backer, and they're going to ask for less. And then, like I said, with the secondary, moving corners to safety, they're going to demand less money, and then move them back to corner afterwards. That's a good way to kind of cheese the system and get players for cheaper contracts without editing contracts, without doing anything that would be off limits in most leagues. Now, if this information or this tip helped you in any way, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Like I said, I try not to recommend cheese methods, but the information needs to be out there for you because there are people that will do this. There are methods that are going to be abused within franchise mode, and take it for what you will. You might be using this information, like I said, in order to prevent these things from happening, which is typically what we do in our leagues, or you might be using this method to just fight fire with fire and not get into a bad situation where everybody else is doing it, and then you're the only one that doesn't know what's going on and how everybody's signing all their players for cheap. So that's what I just wanted to give you guys today, because it is important, valuable information. I hope that you guys did find it useful. Like I said, leave that feedback down below, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.